A show of solidarity by three countries shunned by the West over their roles in the Ukraine war. China's President Xi Jinping gathered his Russian and North Korean counterparts in Beijing for the first time on Tuesday. Russian President Vladimir Putin was hosted in the Great Hall of the People for a bilateral where he called the Chinese leader his dear friend. The pair then met at Xi's personal residence over tea. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's armoured train was spotted arriving in the Chinese capital before his motorcade rolled through the streets. The three are set to appear together at a massive military parade on Wednesday, where the Chinese president will flaunt his vision for a new global order as US President Donald Trump's America First policies strain Western alliances. For Kim, the parade will mark the largest multilateral diplomatic event he has attended. It offers the reclusive leader an opportunity to gain support for his banned nuclear weapons and expand his diplomatic circle. Analysts are watching whether the trio may also signal closer defence relations. Russia and North Korea signed a pact in June 2024, and a similar alliance is agreed between Beijing and Pyongyang. Any concrete agreement could alter the military calculus in the Asia-Pacific region. It would also be a blow for Trump, who has talked up his close relations with the trio and touted his peacemaking credentials as Russia's 3.5-year war with Ukraine has raged on. Xi also held talks on Monday with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, whose country has been targeted by US tariffs over its purchases of Russian oil. Trump's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent called the summit performative, accusing China and India, the biggest buyers of Russian crude, of being bad actors and fueling Russia's war.
Syria is officially an oil exporter again. The country shipped 600,000 barrels of heavy crude by tanker on Monday. That marked its first official export in 14 years, though it's a far cry from years past. Back in 2010, Syria exported 380,000 barrels every day. That was before protests against Bashar al-Assad's rule spiralled into the country's long war. The conflict devastated infrastructure and saw oil fields change hands numerous times. Exports were also complicated by US and European sanctions, which stayed in place for some months after Assad was finally ousted. In June, Donald Trump issued an order lifting Washington's restrictions, clearing the way for US firms to begin work extracting Syrian oil and gas. Damascus officials say the debut shipment has been sold to a company connected to global oil trading firm BB Energy, which did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Rafat Kadur is the director of Syrian heavy crude oil transportation. He says the oil is being exported as its surplus to local needs. Kadur says the sale went without a hitch and there were no problems finding a buyer. Most of Syria's oil is found in the country's northeast, in territory held by Kurdish-led authorities. They began providing oil to the central government in February, but ties have since become strained over concerns about rights for minorities, including Kurds.
Residents in parts of Afghanistan desperately searched for survivors after one of the worst earthquakes to hit the country flattened entire villages overnight. Authorities said hundreds of people were killed and thousands more injured across Kunar, Nangarhar, Laghman and Nuristan provinces in the east and northeast. We need urgent help, this man said. Our children, women, elders and the dead are still buried beneath the debris. The magnitude 6 quake struck around midnight local time at a depth of about 6 miles. Civilians and soldiers were seen working together, rushing the wounded onto military helicopters. But rescuers struggled to reach remote mountainous areas cut off from mobile networks along the Pakistani border when mud brick homes collapsed in the quake. This local medical official said it took 5 or 6 hours of walking to reach some of the disaster-hit areas. A UN humanitarian official said there has also been heavy rain in the region, so there was an added threat of landslides and rock slides. While rescue teams were also trying to dispose of animal carcasses quickly to minimize the risk of contamination to water resources. This was Afghanistan's third major deadly quake since the Taliban took over in 2021. It's set to further stretch the resources of the South Asian nation, which is already grappling with humanitarian crises, from a sharp drop in foreign aid to mass deportations of its citizens from neighboring countries. Thousands of people mourned on Monday for the Prime Minister and 11 other senior figures of Yemen's Houthi-run government who were killed last week by an Israeli strike. The funeral was held at the largest mosque in the capital Sana'a, with officials vowing to take revenge. Mourners chanted the Houthi slogan, saying, "God is great, death to America, death to Israel." Mohammed Miftah, now de facto head of the Houthi-run government, told the crowd he will crack down on spies within the country, saying Yemen faces a security challenge from the Zionist entity. The United Nations said its offices in Sana'a were raided on Sunday, with at least 11 staff detained. No reason was given, but the Houthis have in the past held Yemeni UN and aid agency workers on suspicion of spying. Miftah later told the media his people are not afraid of martyrdom, saying that the enemy will only face stronger resistance on the military, political and popular fronts. He was the deputy of Prime Minister Ahmad Ghaleb al-Rawi before Israel's deadly airstrike last Thursday. Al-Rawi was largely a figurehead and not part of the inner circle of power. The attack was the first to kill top officials. The Israeli military described it as a complex operation made possible by intelligence gathering and air superiority. It said fighter jets struck a compound in the Sana'a area, where senior Houthi figures had gathered, as a recorded speech by top Houthi leader Abdul Malik al-Houthi.
Gold prices hit a record high on Tuesday. The metal jumped up to just over $3,508 before scaling back. Investors bought up on growing expectations the US Federal Reserve will cut interest rates this month. Traders are currently pricing in a 90% chance of a 25 basis point Fed rate cut on September 17th. Non-yielding gold often performs well in a low interest rate environment. Bullion has gained close to a third in value so far this year and rallied to a number of record highs. It's seen as a useful hedge against geopolitical and economic problems. Analysts say it has drawn support from ongoing central bank buying amid a move away from the US dollar, as well as trade uncertainty and broad dollar weakness. Spot gold prices rose 27% last year and broke the $3,000 per ounce level for the first time in March this year. That was due to uncertainty around US President Donald Trump's trade policies.
Estos que están aquí, que son como unos pistones, esa es la simbología del iguana aquí. Eso es lo que indica. Y cuando me mudé acá, yo viví en el frente de mi casa hay una cañada.
When I moved here, there's a ravine in front of my house, and people had the habit of throwing garbage there or dumping it in the ravine. Even twice a year, they would set fire to that garbage, and everyone living around it was affected.
Y los afectados éramos todos los que vivíamos o vivimos alrededor de él. Entonces yo dije, no, yo tengo que hacer algo con esto. O sea,
So I said, no, I have to do something about this. I took on that responsibility as a direct victim and as a citizen to raise awareness so people would stop dumping garbage.
Crear conciencia y que la gente no siguiera botando basura. En el transformer usé materiales.
For the transformer, I used recycled materials from refrigeration and mechanical workshops and from air conditioning repairs. For the macaw, I used zinc sheets.
Lámina de zinc. Y el que más me ha llamado la atención es la iguana.
The one that has attracted the most attention is the iguana. I put it there as my project for the community to continue beautifying that area. I call it the Mollejo iguana. It's completely made of rubber.
Completamente hecha de caucho.